I evicted my sister-in-law after she left Biohazards in my home, leading to family conflicts. Now my husband is stuck outside with her. My spouse has a sister and two brothers. I'm not really fond of his sister and her spouse. After losing their house, they have recently been couch surfing. This may have been prevented had they behaved sensibly. They initially stayed with my in-laws, but were asked to leave because of their unruly kids, citing my father-in-law's diabetes. After their older children moved out, they moved in with my husband's older brother and his wife, who had two extra rooms. However, they were forced to leave after 3 weeks due to planned renovations. They helped out around the house and generally kept things clean, so the older brother and his wife were pleased with them. The younger brother then moved in with them. The sister-in-law assisted in managing her kids while they were there, as her mother was coming to help with the baby. The youngest brother's wife. Finally, my husband agreed to take them after being emotionally coerced. I only agreed if they kept the house tidy, especially because they had previously been untidy in my house. For instance, they would throw trash next to the trash can but not inside, frequently leaving behind dried and odorous food remnants. Even worse, instead of putting her old sanitary towels into the bathroom bin, she would frequently leave them on top of it. I asked the youngest brother's wife about their to-dints before they moved in. According to her, everything was maintained tidy and orderly. However, during family gatherings over the holidays, I personally witnessed how they behaved differently in other households than mine. I made my youngest brother and my parents-in-law witnesses to their pledge to help out around the house and keep it as tidy as they found it in order to maintain accountability. They would have to depart immediately if they disobeyed these regulations. She consented but mockingly retorted, "As you wish, Your Highness." It was fine for the first 5 days, but then this morning I discovered a used, incorrectly wrapped sanitary towel on top of the trash can. Her daughter, who was staying in my daughter's room, placed a used tampon on the sink and smashed the shampoo and conditioner in the bathroom. Additionally, because her husband had left for work early, the kitchen was in disarray. I couldn't risk my inquisitive toddler picking up a bloody sanitary towel. I knocked on the door of the guest room and instructed her to gather her belongings and leave. With an indignant expression, she asserted her innocence and said I could throw it away if it bothered me, it was just some blood. The final straw was when, after grabbing her luggage and starting to pack her things, she refused to leave the house at first, claiming she didn't follow my instructions and was going to wait for her brother. I informed her that I also owned this house. A few hours ago, I dropped her off at my in-laws with her youngest children. Her husband made a scene when I wouldn't let him in after he returned from work. He visited my in-laws, but because of my father-in-law's sickness, they didn't want them there. Within 20 minutes after my husband got home from work, my in-laws and her family were in our driveway. They are still arguing about being allowed inside while standing outside. I warned my husband that he was not welcome in our house either if he backed down, and I wouldn't open the door. First update. A little update: my driveway appeared to be the scene of a Mexican standoff yesterday. I declined to walk out and participate in the conversation while they were out there. 2 whole hours later, they were gone. They are at my in-laws right now, but they said they would come back tomorrow when everyone would be home from work to talk about the situation and come up with a practical answer. That's what my hubby told me anyway. I informed my husband that I would not have them in my home as soon as he entered. Additionally, he cleaned up after them when I instructed him to. He asked me why I made him do it after he had cleaned up. I informed him that, in contrast to him, I was not biologically linked to these people and that I was equally repulsed by their bodily fluids. I went on to say that he could only imagine how awful I used to feel when I had to clean up after them. If he thought it was dirty, he bleached the sink 3 times and said he would buy a new bin. We have a plan for tomorrow that states they will never move in with us again. He left the task of cleaning up the shampoo and conditioner mess in the bathroom to his niece. Our daughter is welcome to use our shower in the meantime. Tomorrow we'll see how this plays out. Second update. It was a long day with my in-laws yesterday. We left early to finish everything. A guilt trip was the first thing my in-laws did. They first said they would house them until they found a place, but it wouldn't be good for Phil's health because of his diabetes. I advised them to ask their daughter to discipline her kids so they wouldn't run around like monkeys. She wasn't pleased about that and launched into a diatribe. I told her that since she didn't like her own life, it was unrealistic for me to be envious of hers. Since my husband never gets involved in my family's affairs, she instructed him to establish the rule and let me know that his sister and her family would remain for however long it took them to relocate. That was unacceptable to my husband. He informed her that it was a 2 yes, 1 no situation, and that the house belonged to both of us equally. Even though I am now a stay-at-home wife, I still made contributions to the house's purchase when I was employed. His mill was staying with us because of the baby, so the younger brother and his wife indicated they wouldn't be able to host them. Renovations were mentioned by the older ones. The wives of the older and younger brothers claimed that I was making this up, saying that she always kept their home and her own tidy. I was advised to accept it and behave like family. Since I saw what I saw and her brother witnessed it and had to clean it up, I informed them I wasn't there to debate about her cleanliness. He attested to the fact that he did and that I wasn't lying. After making a mistake, my sister-in-law asked her brother, "Why did you clean it up? I was supposed to clean it up." She said either she knows she has the entire family in her pocket or she's the most stupid person alive to acknowledge that. In any event, I made it plain that she would not be staying with me, and because she got along much better with the other members of the family, they would find a solution on their own. My niece refused to clean up the leftover mess when my husband told her that she was old enough to do so. "She's your niece, but my daughter, don't you dare tell her what to do." Her father chimed in, causing a heated argument that they both had to end. I explained to her and her husband that my husband and I were simply there to collect money for the trash can we had to discard because she was scattering biohazards all over the house. "It would never happen," she replied, laughing in my face. "All right," I said. It happened so fast that day that I still had her daughter's, her husband's, and her 2 younger children's tablets along with some of her jewelry and a few other items. I hope you understand that when I threw you out I didn't pack all your possessions. I assured her that everything would be sold to cover my expenses. She was shouting loudly about what she would do if I dared to sell anything. As we were leaving, having my back, my hubby advised me to sell anything I needed to. They continued to text my husband later, pleading with him to do them a favor by putting up with her for a few months until she recovered. I informed him that I would never consent to allowing her slobby husband, and her swarm of kids to return. They also tried to guilt me about his niece's education by texting me, saying that if they found a rental outside of the school zone, she could have to start at another school because they don't have a place to remain near her school. "Tough luck," I responded, then blocked them. Although my husband won't block his parents, he was upset with his brothers for accusing him of being self-centered for not taking them in when they were going through a difficult time. Although they acknowledged that it was disgusting, they justified her actions by speculating that I might have done something to make it worse. Update: the days following the eviction were tense and emotionally draining. The situation with my sister-in-law Sil and her family was far from resolved, and the ripple effects of the confrontation spread further than I could have ever anticipated. What started as a simple disagreement about cleanliness and boundaries had turned into a full-blown family feud that now threatened to unravel the delicate threads of our relationships. My in-laws, especially my mother-in-law Mill, kept trying to mediate, but the damage was already done. After I blocked the family from reaching out to me, The constant texts, calls, and confrontations slowed down, but the tension remained. It seemed like everyone was trying to either guilt trip us into opening our doors again or shift the blame onto me for the fallout. My husband and I were now at odds with everyone, his sister, his brothers, and even his parents. No one seemed to understand why I had done what I did, and no one seemed to care about the reasons behind my decisions. They all just wanted to fix the problem, but not in the way that would bring me peace. My husband, Alex, had become an emotional battlefield himself. On the one hand, he wanted to respect my boundaries and keep the peace in our home, but on the other hand, he was caught in the middle of a family that was pressing him on all sides. The day after I kicked his sister out, he came home from work exhausted, and I could see the weight on his shoulders. He tried to offer me comfort, but he had that distant, unsure look in his eyes, the same look I saw when he first started questioning if he was doing the right thing by supporting me. I knew it was hard for him, but it didn't make me feel any less betrayed. "We'll figure this out," he said softly as we sat on the couch after putting the kids to bed. I don't want this to tear us apart. They're my family." "I know they're your family, Alex," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. "But my family is here now. This house is my home, and I'm not going to let anyone treat it like a garbage dump. They need to learn to respect boundaries. If they can't do that, I don't know what to tell you." "I get it," he said, running a hand through his hair. "It's just hard, it's family." I understood, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for them. My family had been violated by their lack of respect for my home, and now I was left to pick up the pieces. The emotional strain was wearing me down more than I expected. The mornings became a blur of chaos as I juggled keeping the house in order, managing my toddler's endless energy, and dealing with the fallout from my eviction of Sil. Things didn't calm down as quickly as I had hoped. A week later, Mill and Phil showed up at our door unannounced. I knew it was coming, I just didn't know when. My husband was at work, so I was left alone to face them. They rang the bell, and I stood there for a moment, debating whether to open the door. When I did, I was met with the familiar anxious expressions on their faces. "Can we come in, dear?" Mill asked with that tone of voice that always made me feel like I was being asked to do something I didn't want to do. I hesitated. "What's this about?" "We just want to talk," Phil said, his voice tired. "We know things are difficult right now, but we want you to know that we're not siding with anyone. Family," I repeated, crossing my arms over my chest. "If this is about Sil, I don't want to hear it. I've told you both before she's not welcome here, not now. Not ever, you have to understand that." Mill's face softened, but I could see the desperation in her eyes. I know," she said. "But she's going through so much right now. Her family lost their home. She has 4 kids, and she's trying her best. They need support." "I've been supportive," I shot back, unable to keep my frustration in check. "I've done my part, but this isn't about sympathy anymore. This is about respect. They didn't respect my home, they didn't respect me, and I'm not about to let them make me feel guilty for setting a boundary." Phil sighed heavily and sat down on the couch looking exhausted. "I get it, I do, but I want you to understand this isn't easy for us either. We're caught between them, it's a mess." "I know it is," I said, rubbing my temples. "But you have to see that I'm not the problem here. I didn't cause this, I didn't make them dirty up my home. I didn't ask them to leave the mess they did. They don't listen to reason." "You don't have to be so hard on them," Mill interjected. "You've always been so patient, so understanding. Please give her a chance." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "What is it you expect me to do, Mom? Open the door and let them wreck my house again? Let them walk all over me just because they're having a rough time?" They both fell silent, and for a moment the weight of the situation hung between us. I knew I had hurt them, and I knew they were just trying to do what they thought was right, but their willingness to make excuses for their daughter's behavior was too much for me to bear. "We won't stay long," Phil said, standing up slowly. "But we just wanted you to know that we still love you, we still consider you family, and we're hoping one day this will all pass. This isn't the end of things, okay?" I nodded stiffly, my arms still crossed, but I didn't speak. They didn't stay much longer after that, but their words echoed in my mind. "We're hoping one day this will all pass." How could they not see the damage Sill's actions had caused? How could they not understand that my boundary was not just a line, it was a shield to protect my home, my sanity, and my family? That night after the kids were asleep, I sat on the bed with Alex, feeling the exhaustion settle in my bones. He was quiet, staring at the wall as if lost in thought. I could sense that he wasn't happy with the way things had gone down, and I could feel the tension in his posture. "I'm sorry, Alex," I said softly. "I never wanted it to get this bad. I just didn't know what else to do." He turned to look at me, his face unreadable. I know, baby, but we need to figure out a way to move forward. We can't keep living like this." "Then we have to stay strong, Alex. We have to stick together," I replied, my voice firm though my heart was heavy. "I can't change how they've acted, but I'm not going to let them walk all over us anymore. I won't let them turn my home into a place of stress and resentment, not for anyone." He nodded slowly, but there was still a trace of doubt in his eyes. "I understand, but where does it end? Are we really done with them for good?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about it for a long time. What was the right answer? Was this the end of the road with his family? Could I ever truly forgive them for the way they treated me and my home? "I don't know," I said quietly. "But I do know that I need peace in my life. I've sacrificed so much for this family, Alex, for you, for our kids. I can't keep sacrificing myself." He didn't respond, but I could see the understanding in his eyes. He knew this wasn't just about his sister or his parents, it was about us, about me standing up for myself and protecting what was mine. The following days were quieter, but no less stressful. I didn't hear from Syl directly, but the occasional message from her children's school or her husband still came through, each one begging for me to reconsider. It seemed like they just couldn't take no for an answer. But I wasn't backing down. I wasn't going to be guilt-tripped into letting them back in. Things didn't miraculously get better, but we found a new rhythm. It wasn't easy, but we started creating the boundaries that had been so desperately needed. Slowly, I started to heal from the emotional toll that the eviction had taken on me. And while the situation with Alex's family remained unresolved, I was certain about one thing. I had finally started taking control of my life. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace with my decision. And as for Syl and her family, I hoped they would learn the hard way that you can't keep running to other people for help without first learning to help yourselves. Only time would tell if they would ever understand that. But I wasn't waiting around for them to change. I had my own life to live.